Hi, I'm Tom. This is Lucy, and this is Kitty Help Desk. So I've had a lot of people ask about Mina and Lucy, and I thought I'd do a couple of short videos just sort of telling you about them and their history and how we all came to be together. Miss Lucy was found by a friend of mine in 2018 in the summer. She was born in April, we think, of that year. And she was found by a friend of mine in an old spare tire in the middle of kind of an abandoned area in the pouring rain. She was trapped inside the tire and she was crying her little head off because she couldn't get out of the tire. So my friend rescued her, took her home with her, and then didn't quite know what to do with her because she was in pretty sad shape. She was dirty and really, really worn out. And so I agreed to take Lucy in because Mina had been, over the years, just by herself a lot. And I thought it might be a way to get her out of her shell a bit. And I knew that there were challenges with introducing a kitten to a senior. I knew really that it was unlikely that they would get along well, but in a lot of cases, you kind of have to try things and then decide whether or not that works. I always thought, well, if things went terribly off the rails, what I would do is I would just adopt Lucy to someone else. Once I got her rehabbed to the point where she was looking good and she was, healthy and happy, she was always goofy from the word go. Even when she was worn out and tiny and dirty and tired, she was still had that goofball spirit that she still has to this day. And I think that's one of the things that caused me to really fall in love with her. The first time that I picked her up, she snuggled up onto my shoulder and went to sleep. So it's kind of hard to resist. To this day, she wants to lay on my shoulder all the time. I mean, if I put her on my shoulder now, she'd probably sit there for the duration of this entire video because she just likes being there and it feels secure to her. So I got her quarantined and she had a really bad case of worms, which is often the case for a kitten found in the wild. But she'd been socialized. She had been around people, clearly. She didn't have any qualms with accepting new people. And she really fell in love with Mina immediately. It was a slow introduction period for, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks where she was in quarantine in a spare room in the house and then slowly introducing them over another week and a half of time where they could smell each other and then they could see each other and then finally they were introduced to one another's areas and allowed to explore one another's scents that way. Then eventually they were put together, and Lucy loved Mina from the word go. It wasn't mutual, but Mina did show signs that she would at least tolerate Lucy. So I decided at that point that I would keep her, and I had her spayed and all her vaccinations done and went through the whole process of getting rid of her worms, which was quite an ordeal. But other than that, she's had zero health issues because when I adopted her, I knew much more about cats than I knew when I adopted Mina. So poor Mina kind of went through my learning curve, a fairly steep learning curve for me, as it turned out. And then, knowing her very well. And I'd had cats before, but it was a different situation with my family or with other people helping and everything. Mina was really the first time I'd ever had a cat that was really pretty much, I was the only caregiver. So, I really tried to step up and learn a lot. And then when Lucy came along, I had already been running Kitty Help Desk for a few years at that point. So I really knew quite a lot at that point. And Lucy has had no health problems. She had a muscle strain because She put on some pandemic weight, but we've gotten most of that under control now, and she's doing great. So that's really Lucy's whole story. She's a wonderful cat, and I just love her to death, and she brings joy into my life every single day because she is so goofy and so exuberant and so enthusiastic about everything, especially food. And she's been really good at clicker training. If you've seen the clicker training video that I made, you've seen her going through the paces of some of the things that she's learned to do. And she's continuing to learn new things. One of the things we do now is I hold a treat in one of my hands and hold out my hands and say which one, and she has to guess which hand the treat's in, and she'll pat whichever hand she wants to choose. I turn it over, and that's the hand that she gets. And that's why when you see her up here sometimes, she's patting my hands like this. She's patting my hands with her paw because she wants to play that game. If there's any downside to her, it's that exuberance really annoys Mina. Other than that, she's just been extremely healthy and happy most of the time. So it's just a joy to have her around. And I'm glad she's willing to be in these videos that I can share her with you to some degree. So that's Lucy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.